Hey, how are you today? This is Josh Patrick, and you're at Cracking the Cash Flow Code. And my guest today is John Orion, and he is the CEO of Play It Creation. He does a bunch of work with modern elders, and he has a program called the Prosperous Modern Elder. And what we're going to talk about today is what happens as you start to age out of your business and what might be the next chapter for you. So instead of me yammering on, which I could do for hours and hours, but you don't want to listen to me, you want to listen to John, let's bring him on. Hey, John, how are you today?
Hi, Josh. I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for being a guest today. So, how can people savor the decades after they leave their business?
Okay, thank you for mentioning for using that word because that's so important, um, and it's why I started Play It Creation in the first place. When we retire, say 65 or something, uh, this day and age, we are gonna live to 100. And when I retired early and I said, okay, I've got to get back into this thing. But one of the things we have to be aware of is that we are going to have 3 or 4 decades after we retire. And people don't really think about what's coming. When people think about retirement, a lot of the stuff that we have, it's about getting ready financially. Are you going to have enough money to last your whole life? And really, when I talked to people when I was getting this thing set up about what's important for them, money was way at the bottom. There's so much other stuff that's going to be much more important to you when you retire. First is going to be health, then it's going to be community, and something worthwhile to do. People express it as having a purpose. But those three things, you better have those, or you are not going to be savoring life. You may have enough money and so on. And some people think, well, okay, I'm gonna, I've worked my whole life, I've worked hard, and now I'm just gonna go play. Well, that really lasts like 18 months, 18 to 24 months, which is the honeymoon period when it's almost like having your gap year. After university or before university, you take a gap year before you get to real work. Well, the same thing happens when you retire. If you do not have something good to go to, if your health isn't taken care of, if you don't have a community to engage with, you will not have a joyful retirement. And I'm using the word joyful rather than happy. I was about to use happy. I draw a distinction between that. Joy is something that wells up from deep inside. And that's what I'm looking for people to have. And that whole idea of savoring life is every moment that comes across. I swim, and it's the feel of water on your skin. Those are the little things we can savor. You don't need big stuff. It's the little things. And so savoring life to me, it's almost like the slow movement. When you are going to enjoy a meal or something, you really just slow down and you come down to that particular moment, and you it's almost you suck the marrow out of the bones of every moment that you've got. Sorry, I'm am I telling you what it is that I think about
No, no,
savoring
no,
life?
that's fine. I have a question for you though.
Sure, yeah.
Is it business owners I know? I used to, when I was younger, think that I could help owners of selling businesses avoid seller's remorse. And I no longer believe that because I've never seen it happen. Every business owner I've ever worked with has had some level of seller's remorse. Some it's lasted for 10 years, and some it lasts for 6 months or a year. But they all go through it. And in my opinion, the reason they go through it is that most people who own privately held businesses, that's their life while they're working is their privately held business. They really haven't developed anything outside of that or much outside. They may ski and they may play golf. They may,
Yeah.
do some stuff that's not especially time consuming when you really think about it. but they have all these social contacts, which they lose immediately when they sell their business.
Yep.
So, how do you help people manage that?
So the Prosperous Modern Elder program has actually three parts to it. The first part of it is envisioning what it is, what your life is going to be like, and making choices about the kinds of experiences you want to have that will have you decide that, yeah, that was a life well lived. Well, one of those things um, is, where are my friends? Where is my community going to come from? Right? And you make a choice about the kinds of things you're going to have, and that has to be part of it. Now, I'll give you an example. Um, one of my students, we ended up starting something called Uke West, which is a group of ukulele players online. And by taking up the ukulele, and this is something that I did post retirement, we got to meet so many good people. We were meeting in person, and then COVID hit, and we couldn't meet in person anymore, so we took it online. When the work got too much, Louise and I said, "Oh, we need to pull back." And we had people saying to us, "I don't know what I would do without meeting every week online." So that's an example. We've got a project down in Costa Rica where I meet with the co-founders, if you want it, monthly, where we talk about what's going on there and talk to Brian down there. So this is totally different communities that I had when I was working as a project manager in IT. Okay, so
And
these are
how
things.
long did it take you to develop those communities?
It took a couple of years
Okay,
after. So
so here's the question.
yeah,
I get it that eventually everyone leaves seller's remorse.
hmm
And the question becomes the period, that 3 year period or a 2 year period till you got to that point
yeah.
could have been pretty painful. And I know for most private business owners, it's very painful. So, what can they do in that 2 to 3 year period while they're figuring out what's next in their life to start managing seller's remorse?
Okay. So it's when you start that 2 to 3 year period. And what I've been trying to encourage people to do is you start looking at this stuff. I talked about the Envision course. You do it a couple of years before our day, retirement day. Okay.
Right.
So you are looking at it ahead of time. You're setting yourself up for what you're going to move into next. It's not
Hmm.
something that, and I would encourage people not to wait until they retire before they start thinking about this stuff.
Yes.
Okay, so the whole Prosperous Modern Elder program, when I first created it, was going to be just a year long. I'm thinking, no, this is more like a 5 year process. You start a couple of years before our day, right? With the envisioning of what could be, maybe even designing the ventures that you're going to move into, so that when you come to our day, and that's when I say, okay, take a gap year, go play, come back in a year after you've done your cruises, you played your golf or whatever else, and now let's start setting up your venture, which you've already designed. You will have started making your contacts, your post ownership contacts, well ahead of time.
How do you go about finding these contacts?
Well, it depends on what it is that you want to do. If you decide, for instance, um, what I want to do, and I'm using your real examples here. So, my cousin goes and helps with a lady in Guatemala who set up a school for kids down there. So, if you had decided, okay, that's what I'm going to be doing, you would be ahead of time making the connections so that you could establish that school. Another fellow who had sold his company, a software company in California, I think he took like maybe 50 ukuleles. He was heading out to Thailand, I think, to teach kids over there. So depending upon what choices you make and the kind of venture you want to set up, you will be making your contacts beforehand. You don't have to make them all. You will go out and do some of them. And one of the things actually I say to people is that what you start out with is not going to be the one that you end up with, but you do have to make a start.
Oh, can you expand on that a little bit, please?
Sure. Um, when you are choosing the venture that you're going to move into and you start designing it, you will you'll you won't know all of the things that you're going to experience. You will make some assumptions. And you'll find that as you get into it, and over the first year, you're going to find that I really like these things, which I was expecting. There's a bunch of other stuff that I thought I would have to do, but I really don't like it as much. And you're going to have to zig and zag. So you'll change it a little bit so that you get more of what you want to experience and less of what you don't want. And you'll do that maybe for another 2 or 3 years. Then you go, okay, well, that's nice. I want to do something a little bit different, and you'll zag again. Now you have the capacity to do this because you've got yourself set up financially. Now you're experimenting. You're playing with what you want to do post internship. It's almost like up until you retire, you've done life's internship, and now you're gonna go play for real. Um, the title play at creation, I mean, that's why we're here, is just to go out and do stuff. What do you want to do? Go try stuff. And you may not like everything that you chose the first time. Does that explain it? That
I mean, that makes some sense. In my experience, a business owner needs, before they retire, they really need to create space within their life where they have time to experiment with stuff
mm-hmm,
before they sell their business, before they transition out of their business. And the way they have to do that, they have to become reasonably good at delegating, and they
right?
have to, find time. I tell people start off with 1 week, and then if you're successful 1 week, go to two. If you're successful for two, go to three, and then go to four. And if you can go 4 weeks and find things to keep yourself engaged, not call your business, not go into the business, not check your business email, there's a chance you're ready to emotionally leave your business, but you're still going to have seller's remorse. You're still going to have a transition period, and you
Mm-hmm,
have to be ready for that transition period and understand what we call as passage, which is, the period of time between being a business owner and whatever comes next is that zigzag, messy, going off in 14 directions, kind of feeling you're lost
mm-hmm.
and, sort of embracing that. Does that make
Yes.
sense?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Typically, and what I've tried to do is have people go down this path not by themselves, but as part of a cohort. Because if you are doing it alongside others, you are going to have people who are going through the same emotions that you are, right? You're able to share with it. You do not have to do it alone, and you should probably be finding people that you can do this with,
Oh, that's a
so
really
that
good point. That's a really good point.
yeah, it's
So, so how would you find people?
well, for me, I'd say come and do the dream or the envision course with us, and you're going to do it as part of a cohort.
Oh, okay.
That's one way, but there are other there'll be the groups online that you can go and say, hey, this is what I'm doing, and I want to go there. You could be you could say, okay, my venture is I want to charter fishing boats out of Mazatlan, as an example. There will be people already doing that.
I'm sure, but see, here's what I'm thinking. Most business owners have no idea what they want to do next. And I think that having a cohort, which you just mentioned,
Mhm.
of other people who don't know what they want to do next would be a very, very powerful support group. So everybody in the group can start working as a team. Now, I might decide I want to become a bass player, and you might decide you want to have a ukulele group, but still, in all, it's a different thing from running a business.
Yes, for sure.
And if you're about to leave your business, and I'm about to leave my business, we're going to be able to have a group where we can support each other in
Mhm.
figuring out what's next.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and in fact, what happens I really love the cohort because so much learning happens in the conversations between each other. I can guide people and say, do this exercise, and then come and we'll talk about it. But when you say, oh, I want to play bass, somebody else may never have thought about that. Or if I'm doing ukulele, for instance, they may never have thought about that. They go, oh, maybe I should check that out. Right. And so you get ideas from each other about what the possibilities are. Because if I've been stuck into, software development for 20 years and I haven't thought about all this other stuff, I may not know anything about, growing neem trees in Costa Rica, for instance, and or have a coffee plantation there and go, whoa, that maybe that's something I should be trying. Right. And then
Yeah.
the other thing that'll happen with those is that you'll get people pairing up or coming together as a group and say, okay, let's try this together. So you have the support behind you. You're not doing it just by yourself.
So, I like this thing, leave behind your power, prestige, and community. And you
Mhm.
are leaving those things behind when you sell your business.
Yep.
And for a lot of folks, they never leave their business because they can't get over leaving that stuff behind. Have you
Yep.
ever run across that?
Well, I was just talking to a friend of mine in London, and she was saying the company that she's working for now, the people are at retirement age, but they can't think of leaving because what will they move on to? And I mean, it is very attractive, the position that people have gotten themselves into, right? So, hmm, how do I get you to let go of this wonderful thing that you've had and move on to your next adventures? And for some people, uh, I've known people who've stayed working because they loved what they were doing. They were coaching younger people. And what I would have suggested for them, they already had. So I'm saying, okay, well, don't go and do this other stuff because you've already built the kinds of things that you should be doing in your next iteration, your next few years. And for some people, I'd say, no, I mean, you've got it nice here, stay here.
Oh,
You don't have to move on.
how about building um, community where you live? Is it, I noticed just for myself, as I'm getting older, most of my business contacts are all over the country and all over the world, but not a lot where I live.
Hmm.
So, what should I be doing to build local contacts? Because when I stop working, all those worldwide national contacts I have are going to disappear
Yep.
and disappear fast. So,
Hmm.
what do you recommend for people to do to build local community for themselves when they really haven't had any because it's all been about work?
Yeah. So have you ever heard of Encore, encore.org?
No.
No? Okay. So this is a group that tries to get people to look at almost like the next career, but looking at the local community, taking your experience that you've got and looking at how you can help the local community um, benefit from what you're able to do. So I talked about the Uke West thing, for instance. So that was something local here that I got involved with. Um, there could be other things like that where you are looking to enhance uh, local nonprofits, for instance, with your experience, or create something locally that supports the local artists, for instance, or the local restaurants, or whatever, something in your community that you can get involved with.
That makes
Okay.
sense. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, if you're talking to somebody who is, say, somewhere between 2 to 5 years before they leave their business,
Mhm.
what is the first thing you would tell them to do?
Come and take my Envision course.
Okay, after they take your Envision course, what would you tell them
Well,
the
actually,
first
no.
thing
So,
to do?
so, so I say that jokingly, but really, the Envision course has all of the things that they've got to go through. Like it starts off with uh, doing a current situation appraisal. Like, where do things stand right now? Who do I know? What's the financial stuff? All of those kinds of things. What's my health like? And then they start looking at things like, so what have I really enjoyed doing in the past? What else might I want to try? Or what might I want to do more of? These things about examining your life to decide what your next years are going to contain for you. So making a deliberate choice about what you want to have going forward. Once you make those choices, then you can start moving in that direction, right? Take music as an example. Perhaps you liked singing, when you were younger, and then you didn't pursue that because you went into work or something. And you go, I might like to try that again. So you might go and take voice lessons, or you might join a local choir, which I did, and uh, and so you start meeting people locally like that. The But to answer the question, it's to look at where you are right now and make some choices about what you want to have going forward.
Cool. Hey, John, unfortunately, we are out of time.
Okay.
And I would, I bet the people listening to this podcast episode would love to, who are thinking about retirement, would love to learn more about where they could find you and what you're doing. How would they go about doing that?
So they can reach me, John, at playatcreation.com. Play at creation, one word, all spelled out, not the other ampersand. And in fact, this playatcreation.com is the website on which I have the courses, etc. So they could go to that. So playatcreation.com.
Cool. And I've got two things I'd like you to do. The first
Sure.
is wherever you're listening to this podcast, please go and give us an honest rating and review. If you love us, I'll be very happy. If you hate us, I might cry a little bit, but you're allowed to say you hate us. I hope you don't. But those reviews are really important for us. It helps people find us. And the second thing I'd like you to do is, one of the things that, John talked about this is the financial readiness piece. And the sad thing for most privately held business owners is that they are not financially ready to leave their business, and they think their business is worth a lot more in retirement than it really is. So we have a program we call the Financial Freedom Accelerator. Part one is you find out where you are in the success path to financially being able to leave your business. And if you find out that you're not financially able, you're not on the success path to that, then we help you find strategies that will get you there. It's not impossible, but if you wait till a year before you want to leave your business, there's a pretty good chance you're going to wake up and you're going to look at the numbers and say, this doesn't work, so I just can't do it. So that seriously limits your options. So we want you to have all the options you can possibly have. And that's what the Financial Freedom Accelerator is all about. To learn more about it, and I hope you do want to learn more about it, it's really easy. You go to www.sustainablebusiness.co. That's .co, not .com. That's www.sustainablebusiness.co/freedom. www.sustainablebusiness.co/freedom. And this is Josh Patrick. We're with John Aurelian, and you're at Cracking the Cash Flow Code. Thanks a lot for stopping by. I hope to see you back here really soon.